Okay, so yesterday we discussed a topic which is difference between sex and gender, and today we'll be discussing a new concept in the same paper, which is from Literature and Gender, and that is patriarchy. All right. So you see, we often think, or rather, we know that patriarchy is the cause of gender inequalities and the subordination of women. Okay, but most of the times, students they pop up, or rather, they come up with a this question that if you could please explain the term patriarchy to begin with. All right, so those of you who do not understand what patriarchy is, or nuances or the niceties, or the kind of a fine conceptual clarity in terms of the particular term patriarchy. So we'll try to understand patriarchy today, the key concept. Fine. Because you see, it is very important to understand present day relations between women and men, and for that we need to understand this very important word, which is patriarchy. Now, gender relations, they are say skewed because of the existence of patriarchy. And in common parlance, we understand that what do we mean by patriarchy? That patriarchy simply means male domination. Okay, it simply means male domination, or the word patriarchy literally means the rule of the father. Okay, it comes from that particular word pater. So pater means father, or the head of the family, or the patriarch. And originally it was used to describe a specific type of male dominated family. And what sort of specific type of male dominated family was this? Usually a large household of the patriarch. Okay, a large household of the patriarch, which was there. Okay, which included women, younger men, children, slaves, and domestic servants, all under the rule of this particular dominant male. Okay, so there used to be a very large household, and there were so many people in the household, which included the patriarch, of course, and then women, young men, then children, slaves, domestic servants, etc. So all of them, they were under the rule of this particular dominant male. So this used to be the meaning earlier, but now it is used more generally to refer to male domination. Okay, to the power of relationships by which men dominate women, and to characterize a system whereby women are kept subordinate in a number of ways. So in various languages we have different words, which I think you will be able to fairly relate well. And for example, in Hindi, you know, the same term, it can be translated, or the equivalent word in Hindi language is Pitrasatta. Okay, so the patriarchy is Pitrasatta in Hindi, whereas in Urdu we have the word which is Pidarshahi. Okay, so in Urdu we call it as Pidarshahi, or in Bangla, that is in the Bangla language, we call it as Pitritontro. Okay, so Pitritontro. So the same word patriarchy, we have equivalent words, as we discussed yesterday while discussing the difference between sex and gender, that we find a kind of a problem while addressing the issue, because we do not find equivalent words in other South Asian languages. But in say, when we come to this particular word patriarchy, we have various words in various languages. So now, what sort of subordination is this, or how is one subordinated or subjugated or relegated to the margins, or mere considered to be the four walls of a particular room, or the furniture in the house, right? So all of these things, you see, it is completely, utterly, and totally, regardless of whatever caste you may belong. Okay, it takes various forms. So the subordination, what are different forms in this patriarchal setup which the subordination takes up? So we have, for example, discrimination. Okay, so discrimination would be there on various grounds. Then you have disregard. So we have disregard also. Then there is insult. Third is the insult. And then we have control. Okay, and further we move on. So there are various other things in various other ways in which subordination takes place is exploitation and oppression or violence. Now violence, you understand, it is done in various ways. So we have violence also. It can be within the family, okay, it can be at the place of work, as well as in society, wherever you can you can easily identify this. So now you see the details may be different when it comes to the subordination on these various lines and in these various places, whether it be the family, the place of work, or the society. But you see the theme remains the same, that is subordination of women, okay, regardless of their class which they may belong. So but there is one thing which you must keep in mind, that patriarchy is not same everywhere. Its nature can be, or rather it is different in different classes in the same society, okay, in different societies and in different periods in history. So it would vary from, say, time to time and from class to class. And when we see it or examine it historically, then also we can find a difference. For example, the patriarchy, if we talk in our, say, grandmother's time, was not the same as today's woman is experiencing. Okay, so the experience of patriarchy from a grandmother's time is different from what is there as an experience today. Okay, and it is also different for a tribal woman. Okay, so what may be there for a tribal woman would also, say, differ for a upper caste Hindu woman. All right, so these are various things where the patriarchy will manifest or rather it will manifest differently. Okay, so likewise it may also vary for the women in, say, the USA or the women in India, right? So for each social system or, say, historical period, it throws up its own problems. Okay, it throws up its own, say, variations on how patriarchy functions and how social and cultural practices they differ, right? So the broad principle, however, which remain the same, and which is, or rather that is, that men control most economic resources and all social, economic and political institutions, so to say. So by now we have discussed so far. Now we can, say, talk as a conceptual category that what patriarchy is. So we can see that patriarchy is both a social structure and ideology or a belief system according to which men are superior. And all of us know that religions, they have played a pivotal role, okay, in creating and perpetuating patriarchal ideology. Okay, they have spread notions of male dominance or male superiority through various stories. Like we have that Eve was created from Adam's rib, or a man is created in the image of God, etc. Or we have that. So these are on various lines. If I recollect more examples, I'll give you later on. But this is one of those things, or rather you can relate that how religion has a kind of a, say, perpetuated this ideology, this patriarchal ideology in the society, and media is no exception. So media and even educational institutions, they also spread patriarchal ideology by showing men to be sturdy. They show men to be, say, stronger in decision making positions, and women as voracious consumers, all right, who are dependent, who are jealous. So all of these things are there. So we know that ideology is something which plays a key role in perpetuating social systems and controlling people's minds, right? For example, say a woman is reduced, or rather, a woman by reduce, or rather, you say reduce women to mere bodies, or which is, or what we can also call to be as objectification. That is, we do objectify them, and media also encourages violence. Media also encourages violence against women. So ideology provides the justification for social behavior. Okay, it gives that justification for social behavior and socio-economic structures. Right? Just a minute. So following, or rather, there are various areas of women's lives and societies which can be said to be under patriarchal control. So if we were to see in a schematized view, or to have just a snippet view of how or what are different areas that how women's lives and societies, they are said to be under patriarchal control. So they would be, for example, that women's productive or labor power. Okay, so that is one. Then women's reproduction. Okay, so what I'm talking is that the patriarchal, how patriarchy exerts its control. All right. So one would be that women's productive or labor power, that is controlled. Second, women's reproduction, right? Third, women's sexuality. Okay. Fourth, women's mobility, as to where you can go and where not, right? Then you have property and other economic resources. Okay. Then further we move on. So we also have social, cultural, and political institutions. Okay, so all of these things are there. So it is important for us to have a kind of an understanding of all these main institutions in society. For example, we have family, religion, law, and say political, educational, and economic institutions. Then we have media knowledge systems. So all of these, they demonstrate quite clearly that they are all patriarchal in nature. Okay, and they are also say pillars of a patriarchal structure, so on which the patriarchy is built, right? So this, so it is a well knit and finely knit, or rather we can say it is a very deep rooted system. Okay, so which makes patriarchy seems invincible, that is, you cannot win over. Okay, so that makes patriarchy something invincible, and not just that, it also makes it seem very natural. Okay, so that is also the one of the dangers of patriarchy, that it looks very natural. So I have already listed say violence under this patriarchy. So that is also there, because you see it is primarily used to control and subjugate women. Okay, and at times such violence is also considered to be as legitimate. Okay, in fact, most of the feminists, or rather the feminists, they believe that violence against women is not just pervasive, it is systemic in patriarchies. Okay, so it is very much there, inherent in the system itself. So it is systemic in nature, that is, it is systemic in patriarchies. And why patriarchies? In the same vein, we'll be discussing not just feminism but feminisms. So we know that there is a plurality of the term, or the plurality of this particular concept, that there would not be just one feminism but feminisms. Likewise, there would not be, I discussed the variability of patriarchy, that it would how it would differ, or how it would vary from on various parameters, right? So therefore it is systemic in patriarchies. So this does not imply, or this does not mean at all, that women are totally powerless or they are without rights, influence, and resources under patriarchy. Okay, in fact, no equal system can continue without the participation of the oppressed. Unless and until the oppressed does not participate, it cannot hold good. Okay, so the system cannot exist, so to say, because and why do they participate? They also participate because they derive some benefits from it. All right, and this is true, or rather holds good for patriarchies as well. So women have risen to power. Okay, women have risen to power. They have occasionally been in control, have wrested benefits in greater or smaller measure, right? But all this does not change the fact that system is primarily male dominated. Okay, male dominated, and women are merely accommodated, fine, in it in a variety of ways, right? So to give a parallel example, you see, we can have this, that how does it happen in a capitalist economy, that workers play a very important or a key role in the management, they play a key role, but they may also even participate in the management to some extent. Okay, but this does not mean that they are ever in control. All right, so variety of complex reasons that why women also support and perpetuate patriarchy. We need to understand that. So most of us, or rather, you see, most of us have internalized, okay, we have internalized its values, the values of patriarchy, and are always not free of patriarchal ideology. Okay, so we may understand, or we may analyze it further by saying that in order to retain their privilege, so that certain benefits can be reaped out, or certain benefits can be met. So you see, women, they continually they are in the process to renegotiate their bargaining power, okay, so to speak, sometimes at the cost of other women also. So it is important for all of us that we look at this particular system of patriarchy, right? In order to understand that what are the reasons for this sort of complicity, that why do women comply, or why do they keep on renegotiating in order to have these powers, right? We know it has been fairly well put by most of us, and we know that how a son is treated in a family, and how a daughter is treated in a family. So those things are still there. We may say so that the degree may have varied, but exactly like those things persist, right? So for example, that how sons are treated better, or how daughters, they are deprived of, say, education. Okay, their freedom is restricted, or the daughters-in-law, how they are mistreated. Okay, and so on and so forth. So all this needs to be understood in the context of the respective power, all right, respective power and position that men and women have in family and in society. Okay, in fact, let me give you an example. It's a beautiful example, that how a rural woman explains this particular thing in a magnificent way. So the example goes like this: that she said, okay, what did a rural woman say, in order to just put all of this in picture to have a better context. So she says, or rather she said, that men in our, she gives the analogy or a metaphor of sunlight, okay, and satellite. So the quotation is like this, that she said, men in our families are like the sun. Okay, they have a light of their own, that is, they own resources, are mobile, have the freedom to take decisions, etc. Women are like satellites without any light of their own. Okay, they shine only if and when the sun's light touches them. This is why women have to constantly compete with each other for a bigger share of sunlight, because without this light there is no life. So you can see how beautifully a rural woman explains all what all we have been discussing so far. All right, and there is one more technical, or rather a critical term which you must understand, that in order to describe, or in order to define that the male control over women, there's this word which is known as paternalistic dominance. Okay, paternalistic dominance. And what does that mean? Paternalistic dominance, it simply means that there is dominance. Okay, so there is supremacy, but it is paternalistic. Because how, or rather why? Because women are provided shelter. Okay, so they are provided shelter, food and security vis-a-vis outsiders. So paternalistic dominance has oppressive aspects, but it also involves a set of mutual obligations and frequently not perceived as oppressive. So this is what makes it difficult to recognize and fight. Clear? So that is one of the things which is quite subtle in nature. Hence, most of us, they fail to understand. Okay. Now, we already did the distinction between sex and gender. Okay, so those things have been covered. So what happens basically, that the sort of gender differences which are there, they are, so as has been pointed here in the paternalistic dominance. Okay, it after some point of time, it becomes so natural, or rather it is legitimatized. Okay, as we said there also, that it is systemic in nature. Okay, patriarchy is systemic in nature, and at times the violence which is there, even that is considered to be something legitimate. So there, this gender differences are legitimatized by patriarchies. Okay, legitimized by patriarchal society. So patriarchy, in terms of its, as I discussed, the plurality of patriarchy, that there would be patriarchies. Okay, so we see the multiplicity, we see the variability. Okay, and we see how complex and a dynamic system is this, which is patriarchy. So by now you have understood that patriarchy, that literally means that it is the rule of the father in a male dominated family. Okay, in a society, in a social and ideological construct which considers men as superior to women. Now there is one critic, a very famous feminist, Sylvia Walby. Okay, so Sylvia Walby, in her book Theorizing Patriarchy, she gives a definition for patriarchy, which goes like this, quote, a system of social structures and practices in which men dominate, oppress, and exploit women. Okay, unquote. This is by Sylvia Walby. So power relations and hierarchies, all of these things are involved, and how men control women's. I have already told the areas where men exert their control over women. So those largely cover, say, women's production, reproduction, and sexuality. Okay, so those things are there, and there are differences. You see, there would be a difference in patriarchy because there would be, say, the class, these differences exist, they persist. That is, the class, caste, religion, region, ethnicity, and the socio-cultural practices, because all of these things are different from community to community, and from time to time also, because the periodicity or the historicity is also to be taken into account, because the degree of patriarchy definitely it varies from time to time. And so this is the context, so you can understand that how is it different for different sets of people. Okay, so it may be different from, say, tribal patriarchy would be something different from Dalit patriarchy, would be something different from upper caste Hindu patriarchy. Fine, so these are the differences. And so social institutions like family, religion, caste, education, media, law, society, state, so they are to be taken into account when you are discussing or trying to discuss or having a kind of an understanding on patriarchy. Fine. So one of those things, let me tell how subtle is this and how does it operate or occur in society. So the very first notion which is there is that of that patriarchal societies, they propagate the ideology of motherhood. All right. Now, motherhood, the moment we tell, say, motherhood, so what happens? Being a mother, you are there to nurse or nourish your child. So that is something which restricts women's mobility, okay, and burdens them with the responsibilities to nurture and rear children. Okay, so the biological factor to bear children is linked to the social position of women's responsibilities of motherhood, which is nurturing, educating, and raising children by devoting themselves to family. Okay, so there's a quotation by Haywood. So Haywood says, patriarchal ideals blur the distinction between sex and gender and assume that all socio-economic and political distinctions between men and women are rooted in biology or anatomy. Okay, so you understand that the very first thing where it goes wrong, or rather how do they propagate so well, is that they invest, or they rather the ideology of motherhood is something which is propagated. Okay, so that is one thing. Fine. Then, so there is a theory of sexual politics, there is a theory of, say, sexism. They are conscious parallels with the theory of, say, class politics and racism to understand the oppression of women. So we must take it into account. And then we have that a very famous adage, or the very famous maxim by Sigmund Freud. Okay, this psycho analyst Sigmund Freud. We have that he stated that for women, that anatomy is destiny. Okay, so this particular expression you must remember, that Sigmund Freud's expression, which he says that he says for women that anatomy is destiny, and it is women's biology which primarily determine their psychology, hence their abilities and roles. So the traditional notion of public-private divide, which is located in the politics, in the public sphere and family and personal relationships. Okay, in private sphere as non-political. Fine, so these things are there. Okay, then we also, as I told you, that there is a critic, Sylvia Walby. She has written a book theorizing patriarchy. Similarly, there is another writer whom you must keep a note of it, which is Gerda Lerner. Okay, Gerda Lerner is an important critic, and she has written a book, The Creation of Patriarchy. Fine. So the creation of patriarchy is also there, where she is of the opinion that instead of saying, say, because she resists the idea of, or rather she is against the notion of using this particular term patriarchy. She says that instead of patriarchy, a better or a neutral term would be, or what she says is that rather one should prefer gender. Okay, instead of saying patriarchy, one can say gender or gender oppression. Okay, so these would be better words in order to have because till the time you keep on registering, right? So it is there, fine. So instead of saying all of these things again and again and again, so one should go for, and there are various reasons that why should one prefer these terms, that gender or gender oppression. So that is her point of view, that instead of, because you see, these things are there because till the time you keep on referring patriarchy, 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 so there we come across the problem of, say, reductionism. You understand that you are being reduced. Okay, you understand that there is problem of biologism. Okay, you understand that, and then also universalism or essentialism. So these things, they are directly related when you talk of all these notions in the context or in the purview of patriarchy. Whereas when you talk of, say, gender or gender oppression, then definitely the thrust or the focus is different, fine, or the impact is different, and there can be an adequate analysis made on these gender inequality and injustices, fine. So these things are there, so I thought of maybe I should point out, and then going through if I missed out on something. uh, Definitely, we'll talk at length on feminism and various approaches to understand patriarchy, because you cannot understand patriarchy unless and until you understand the various types of feminism. And one of those would be, say, liberal feminism. So, like when we'll talk about liberal feminism, Marxist feminism. So, as I said, we do not have feminism but feminisms. Similarly, not just patriarchy but patriarchies, because there is a variability in the manifestation of patriarchy, or how does that exist. So we have socialist feminism. Okay, then we have radical feminism is there. So in the types of feminism we'll be dealing, psychoanalytical feminists, they are also there. We have ecofeminism, of course. Then postmodernist feminism is there, black feminism, womanism, lesbian feminism. Okay, so all of these things are there. But you see, uh, how much time is left? I can also talk about, say, structure of patriarchy then. Hmm. What is the school of patriarchy? So the first lessons of patriarchy, they are learned in the family itself, where the head of the family is a man or a father. Man is considered the head of the family and controls, say, women's sexuality, labor, or production. These things I have already detailed, and reproduction and mobility. So you see, as I told you that there are different ideologies. So one thing was that the notion of motherhood, which is clearly related to mother's mobility and her freedom. Similarly, there is another notion which is called the concept or the notion of paraya dhan. Okay, so you understand that term, that the family or the father is considered to be the inheritor. Okay, that and which is later considered to be as paraya dhan. So in joint families we understand this better. So paraya dhan thing is there. And then you see, when I told you that particular point, that it is systemic patriarchies. Now let me elaborate a bit on what do I mean by saying that systemic patriarchies. Basically, you see, in a particular system, here what am I discussing is that is a structure of patriarchy or structures of patriarchy, fine. So there is a systemic deprivation. Okay, you are deprived, right? And what sort of deprivation? Deprivation and violence against women. For example, rape, sexual harassment, sexual abuse, female feticide, infanticide, witch killing, sati, Okay, dowry deaths are there, wife beating, high level of female illiteracy, malnutrition, undernourishment, and insecurity. These are those things which I was talking, that women, they negotiate for their privileges, for their benefits. Okay, and that is what I clubbed under the term paternalistic dominance, because of the food, shelter, and security which they get uh, from men. Therefore they find it that yes, they should mutually oblige. Okay, so but here itself patriarchy is systemic in deprivation, and these are various ways that why women are bound to home. Okay, they are economically, and because they are bound to home, they are economically exploited. Okay, they are socially suppressed and politically passive, because you are not left with to make any decisions, right? So as we have, I also give you that account of Adam and Eve earlier, and now you also have that laws of Manu. Okay, so what does laws of Manu say? Laws of Manu insist that since women by their very nature, they are disloyal, okay, they should be made dependent on men. Okay, so this is how, what I wanted to tell you, that how religion and how various institutions, they propagate a kind of a belief or an ideology, fine, and they are able to work out patriarchy, fine. So this is something which you should understand, right? And then we have Uma Chakravarti is one of the, we also have this one of the devices, or in terms of, if we talk in terms of ideology, which was first established when it concerns to women, and they have internalized it so intricately or so well. Okay, that is the notion of Stri Dharma. Okay, so the notion of Stri Dharma or Pati Varta Dharma is there. So because they have to live by this ideal notion of womanhood constructed by the ideologues of the society. Clear? So ये भी है. Fine. So all of these things are there. So this is what or how can be discussed, or we have discussed so far in the structure of patriarchy. Okay, now let me just very quickly look if I can add more to the discussion. Is when it comes to this particular word patriarchy, it the concept is we also find this concept and in the Old Testament, right? So we have the Bible, we have the Old Testament and the New Testament. So the concept is there in the Old Testament, which is also called OT and NT. So OT, in OT we have this, and which says the patriarch was the father and ruler of a family or tribe. Okay, this is one of the definitions from Oxford English Dictionary, right? And so I have also told that in that how feminism, or what feminism meant, and then how it changed its matrix, or it gained a kind of a new lease of life, attributing in the main realm of when we talk of, say, ideology. All right, so that is there, and so there are various critics who have broadened the horizon, or broadened the field or the discipline when it comes to or the area of study, which is feminism. Fine. So someone talks of, say, male dominance. All right, and some feminists, they argue that they should be reserved for the rule of the father over his wife, immature children, and any other household dependence. As I told you that most of the feminists, they are also against the idea of using patriarchy as a word. So they have different reasons I have already stated, and Sylvia Walby, she gives a broader definition, which I already told you. And then in order to avoid the charge of universalism and essentialism, okay, so by breaking patriarchy, she breaks patriarchy into 6 important component parts. Now, what are these 6 component parts, which we can also say to be at the structure of patriarchy? They are, for example, husbands' exploitation of their wives, labor, okay, relations within waged labor, then the state, male violence, sexuality, and culture. So all of these things are it comprises the 6 component structures of patriarchy. And then we also, I would conclude by saying that there is a critic named as Gail Rubin, Gayle Rubin. So Gail Rubin is someone who also says that instead of using patriarchy, one can also use a neutral term which could mean sex gender system. Okay, sex gender system. So instead of using patriarchy, we may also use sex gender system, as Gerda Lerner suggested that we may use gender or gender oppression. Fine. Thank you.